Nice to see so many of you present today. So, welcome to this press conference following the Foreign Affairs Council of the Ministers of Defense. HRVP Borrell will brief you on the outcome of the meeting today, and then he will take some of your questions. HRVP, you have the floor.
Thank you, Nabila. Well, today we have had another interesting Council defense format, a long one. We are 2 hours late. Before the Council, we hold the European Defence Agency Steering Board. As you know, the Steering Board of the Defence Agency is being composed by the defence ministers of the member states. I think that the European Defence Agency is not very well known, and it deserves to be better known, because they do an extraordinary work, and there is not a lot of knowledge about the result of this work. Now the war has been an occasion for the work of the European Defence Agency put on the news and on the reflection and on the work of the European Council and the Commission. According with the strategic compass, today we have established the Hub for European Defence Innovation. The purpose is to stimulate, facilitate and support cooperation among member states on the innovation in the military field. It is the first deliverable of the strategic compass. Then we went to the analysis of the defense investment gap that we will present tomorrow together with the Commission in response to the tasking from the leaders in Versailles. And if I can summarize the result, is that the Europeans need to spend together more and better. The three things. And since it looks like that there is a certain readiness to spend more, it is the occasion to spend together, because spending together is the best way of spending better. If every member state increase its defense expenditure, multiplying by X its current expenditure, the result will be a big waste of money, because we will be multiplying our gaps, our loopholes, and not decreasing our duplications. By the contrary, increasing our duplications. The analysis that the agenda has been doing systematically every year has been very much useful in the preparation of the report that the College will study tomorrow and will be presented to the leaders. You know that the agency produces this coordinated annual review on defense, the CART report, or the capability development plan, where we study what do we have, which are our capabilities, and what do we need to have. And this is the gap. The gap is what we have and what we should have, or what we need to have. And taking into account the current security context, marked by the return of war to Europe, this analysis is becoming much more important. The analysis looks at the gaps in the short term. The first thing to do is to refill our stockpiles of military material. In the medium term, we have to augment our existing capabilities, and in the long term, we have to reinforce and modernize. Can I put a figure to the gap? Yes. If we had been spending on defense every year since 2009 until 2018, the same amount of money that we were spending in 2009, every year the same amount of money than in 2009 for 9 years, we would have spent in defense 160 billion more. Now we are at the same level that in 2008. We have recovered this gap, but the cumulated differences, adding up all the annual gaps with respect to the 2009, it makes 160 billion. It has been a strong disarmament process, a silent disarmament process that the Europeans have been passing through. I'm very happy, because less military expenditure means more money for other purposes. But now we face the consequences of this cumulated gap, and we have to recover from these dynamics. Then we move to the how to recover. This is a big question. On what? Medium-term, refilling stocks, short-term, refilling stocks, medium-term, increase the existing capabilities, long-term, to reinforce and modernize. It's going to be a big task and a big occasion also for our industry, and the war in Ukraine has been a wake-up call, making clear that we have to fill in these gaps and increase our defense capabilities. Then we went to the FAC defense. We updated the ministers to the latest development in Mali. Let me summarize. We don't have the guarantees by the transition authorities on non-interference by the Russian mercenaries. By the contrary, we have seen an increasing pattern of collusion and allegations of grave human rights abuses being investigated by the United Nations, and the latest regrettable decision by Mali to pull out from the G7 Sahel only add to this. So we decided to reaffirm our 1 month ago provisional decision of suspending operational training to form units of the Malian Armed Forces and the National Guard. We have also suspended the delivery of military equipment under the European Peace Facility, who was on the way. This doesn't mean that we are leaving Sahel. On the contrary, we want to do more and to do better. And for that, we will relocate our resources, our military resources, in the neighboring countries. We will look to what's happening in the Gulf of Guinea, and we will be decreasing our effectives on the Mali itself, since we are not going to continue doing military training. We will decrease our effectives. On the next weeks, we will present a strategic review of the Mali mission to the member states, but we are not cancelling this mission. And then we went to the Compass. You know that the Compass is a very operational document with 80 concrete actions and a time to deliver. And 51 of these 80 concrete actions have to be implemented already this year. And we are working on it. And we have explained to the ministers what are we doing and what we expect the member states to do on space and on fighting against information and manipulation, on developing this rapid capacity deployment force. 51 of these measures has to be implemented this year. Then we went on the study on how can we make our CSDP missions and operations more effective. This is another request from the Compass. More flexibility in order to respond to our partners' needs. More targeted training accompanying equipment, and we cannot have a fit-for-all formula. We have to be able to adapt the missions to the current security environment. We should try, for example, to authorize executive tasks, not just training, but executive tasks, using Article 44, which allows a member to agree to execute certain tasks that could represent an executive mission under the European Union banner without having to be all together. We don't need unanimity. Well, we need unanimity, but not a unanimous participation. So the ones who doesn't want to participate can let the others go. We have also to prevent better and not only respond to crisis. We have to act before the crisis erupted. This is a good example. The Gulf of Guinea is a good example. We know that there are some crises that look like the Sahelian crisis to tackle terrorism. So that's happening in Benin, Togo, and Burkina Faso. So we need to act before the crisis erupts, and we have to be prepared to provide support to our partners well before we are in an urgent situation. We need smaller, more agile teams that can address specific requests for targeted training, advice, equipment, and accompaniment. This is the formula. Then we went to the Russian aggressions against Ukraine. We were joined by the Ukrainian Minister of Defense, Mr. Reznikov, via VTC certainly, and the NATO Deputy Secretary General, Mr. Joanna. Minister Reznikov gave us an account of the situation on the ground and the needs of the Ukrainian army that we are continue supporting. I think that this support is making a difference in the battlefield. In the battlefield capacity of the Ukrainian army, we need to sustain the effort. We have to replenish resources and stockpiles. And I have to say that this support at that moment is critical because the war is in a critical moment, in a turning point. And we cannot let Ukraine to run out of equipment. And we will not. We will not let Ukraine to get out of equipment because the battle in the Donbass is in a moment in which the counteroffensive of the Ukrainians and pushing the Russians and having some extraordinary success like the one the other day against a column of Russian tanks shows that the Ukrainians continue having an incredible capacity to resist and to counterattack. The additional tranche of 500 million will bring to 2 billion the total military support from the European Union. But it is just a part of the European effort. The member states, from their side, they are also doing a lot of effort. I will not give you the total amount, but it's much more than people believe. And I think this is a good thing to continue doing because we did it from the beginning of the war and we will have to continue until the end. The delivery is advancing thanks to the hard work of the clearinghouse cell. It's working in cooperation and coordination with the cell that the other day in Ramstein was created in order to pull together the efforts not only of the European member states but of the all people, US, UK, Canada and many others that are supporting Ukraine. Our advisory mission to Ukraine today is back to Kyiv and will support the Ukrainian authorities through the civilian activities, supporting border management and investigation and prosecution of war crimes. We also launched the Atrocity Crimes Advisory Group, jointly with the US and UK, to coordinate international resources supporting these investigations. The news of the day. The news of the day is Swedish and Finnish ministers explaining us and updating us about the policy deliberations on NATO membership. They can count on the full support of the European Union. This will increase the number of member states that are also members of NATO. And this will strengthen and increase the cooperation and the security in Europe. So let's hope that this membership will come soon, and on this way NATO and European Union will be two sets of member states with more intersections. It's an important new and important geopolitical change. Have a look at the map on the Baltic Sea. Have a look at the coast of the Baltic Sea. You will be the big differences with Sweden and Finland being members of NATO. As I said, it was a long and intense Defense Council. I am at your disposal for more information.
Thanks a lot, and we will take questions. We're very happy to have many of you here in the press room. I will start by Nicolas, who has the first question.
Monsieur le représentant, bonjour, en français si c'est possible. Nicolas Gros-Verret, B2.
Sorry, let me...
Oh, je disais en français, si
oui,
possible.
Oui, allez-y.
Justement sur la Finlande et la Suède, on sait très bien qu'il y a une période intérimaire avant l'incorporation totale à l'OTAN, et il y a cet article 42.7 qui pourrait être activé s'il y avait une volonté d'attaque de la Russie. Est-ce que les Européens sont prêts à répondre à une demande potentielle des Suédois ou des Finlandais s'ils décidaient de le mettre en œuvre? Et si vous pouvez, si je me permets, sur un autre sujet, sur le Mali, vous avez dit que on ne partait pas du Mali, mais est-ce qu'on va arriver à rester avec toutes les décisions maliennes qui se succèdent tous les jours, plus mauvaises les unes que les autres, et le possible départ de quand même quelques pays, dont je pense les Espagnols. Je vous remercie beaucoup.
Oui, à propos du Mali, pour annuler la mission, pour la finir, pour plier bagages et partir tous, il faut une décision prise à l'unanimité du Conseil. Et vous savez combien difficiles sont les décisions à l'unanimité. Mais la question ne s'est même pas posée. La mission n'est pas annulée, la mission reste, mais on va la redéfinir et la redimensionner. On a plus de 1000 effectifs. On n'a pas besoin de 1000 effectifs si on ne va pas faire un entraînement de masse à des centaines de soldats. L'activité, la grosse activité, c'est le training de dizaines, centaines de troupes. Ça ne va pas continuer. On a arrêté il y a un mois. Il n'y a pas de raison de continuer parce qu'on n'a pas des assurances de la partie des autorités maliennes. Donc ça, on arrête. Si ça, on arrête, il faut répatrier un certain nombre de ces effectifs. L'Espagne ne part pas, mais sans doute va diminuer le nombre de ces effectifs. L'Espagne est un grand contributeur à la mission au Mali. Et ça, évidemment, ça va diminuer. L'Allemagne a ses effectifs qui restent, mais pas au Mali. Ils restent au Niger, de l'autre côté. Ils font partie d'une mission qui maintenant a une dimension régionale, parce que c'est pas seulement le Mali, c'est aussi le Burkina, c'est aussi le Niger, mais ils sont pas au Mali. Donc la mission reste, la mission va être redimensionnée, refocus, je sais pas comment on dit refocus, recadré pour atteindre d'autres objectifs, comme le training de haut niveau, les trainings dans des affaires de, par exemple, le respect des droits humanitaires et le conseil de haut niveau au cadre de l'armée malienne, c'est possible. Mais l'activité, disons, qui demande un grand volume d'effectifs et une grande activité numérique qui engage des centaines de personnes, celle-là va s'arrêter. Mais on reste pour faire les autres choses avec beaucoup moins d'effectifs. Mais ceci ne veut pas dire que tout le monde va partir quand et comment ils voudront. Il faudra faire ça d'une façon coordonnée. On est quand même une mission et chaque pays devra proposer le retrait de ses troupes d'une façon coordonnée par le commandement bruxellois de la mission au Mali.
Sur la question.
J'allais dire une chose, mais je ne la dis pas. Ensuite, article 42.7. Article 42.7, il est là, elle dit ce qu'il dit. Il dit clairement que si un État est attaqué dans son territoire, s'il y a une agression armée contre un État membre de l'Union européenne, cet État peut demander aux autres de l'aider. Et les autres sont obligés à le faire avec tous ses moyens. Ni plus ni moins. Ni plus ni moins. Il faut que l'État affecté le demande, mais s'il le demande, les autres doivent l'aider. C'est pas potestatif, c'est pas dire j'ai d'autres choses à faire. Non, non. C'est une obligation de traiter. Mais c'est pas automatique. Il faut que l'État agressé, si ça arrive, espérons que ça n'arrivera jamais, les demande.
Merci. Maintenant, je vais prendre des questions sur les collègues qui sont connectés, et je passe la parole à Tommaso.
Oui, bonjour, est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Très bien.
Oui, bonjour. Tommaso Gallavotti de l'agence de presse ADN Chronos. Et c'est seulement pourquoi ce matin la secrétaire au Trésor des États-Unis, Janet Yellen, a dit, je cite en anglais, je vous prie de m'excuser, elle a dit I commend European leaders for their proposal to phase out all Russian energy supplies within 6 months, and I recognize the solidarity of the European people in accepting the implications of this proposal. Est-ce que vous pourriez nous dire quand les leaders européens ont pris cet engagement? Parce que, à ma connaissance, ce n'est pas un engagement qu'ils ont pris en public. Et en plus, la secrétaire Yellen est une ancienne présidente de la Federal Reserve. Donc, j'ai du mal à croire qu'elle parle en faisant des erreurs. Merci.
Je ne dirais pas qu'elle a fait des erreurs, mais il peut y avoir une mauvaise interprétation. Un complete phase-out of Russian energy, que je sache, c'est pas une décision ferme de celui qui peut la prendre, non? Mais peut-être il y a une mauvaise interprétation des données, des chiffres. Je ne peux pas commenter une déclaration que vous m'annoncez, mais que je ne connais pas en détail. Je ne sais pas.
Merci. James, you have the floor.
James Bays from Al Jazeera. As you said today, the news of the day is Sweden and Finland, and very specific things have happened while you've been in that meeting. President Biden has asked the Prime Minister of Sweden and the President of Finland to come to the White House on Thursday. The Swedish Foreign Minister has signed the letter requesting membership of NATO, and perhaps most importantly, the Finnish Parliament has voted 188 in favour of joining NATO, just 8 against. These things that have happened today, what message do they send, do you think, to President Putin?
Je ne pense pas que les Suédois et les Finlandais ont envoyé un message à l'adresse du président Poutine. En tout cas, j'ai entendu dire que le président Poutine ne se sent pas préoccupé pour cette décision. Je m'en réjouis.
Jacopo, you have the floor.
Thank you, Jacopo Regazzi with Politico. Je comprends que quand on parle de défense, on parle en français, mais je vais poser ma question en anglais parce que before you mention the refiling stocks, my question is where the money will come from. If I understand correctly, there will be an off-budget fund because the MFF cannot be used for military expenditure, where member states can chip in. And first of all, I would like to understand whether this is correct. And secondly, whether this money will also be used to refill also the EPF, because so far 2 billion, as you just said, have been spent, so there will be other 3 billion for the rest of the years. And so my second question is whether this money will also be used to refill the European Peace Facility. Thanks.
We can talk about European defense in English. Happily, I am not able to speak in German, but it would be equally appropriated. The common defense is not something that belongs to the French. Look, first, certainly we cannot fund military expenditures with the European Union budget. We finance the defense industry through the European Defense Fund, qui devrait s'appeler European Industrial Defense Fund, parce qu'elle finance l'industrie de défense. Mais il n'achète pas d'armes. La European Peace Facility ne fait pas partie du budget européen. C'est un budget d'un accord intergouvernemental qui n'est pas soumis aux règles du budget européen. Donc, on pourrait en faire ce que les membres du board décident. Mais sans doute, ils ne vont pas décider d'utiliser ces ressources, ces maigres ressources, parce que finalement, comme vous dites, il nous reste 3 milliards. Avec 3 milliards, on ne va pas trop loin pour refaire les stocks des armées européennes qui ont pu être, je dirais pas épuisés, mais usés pour aider l'Ukraine. Non, le gap analysis, c'est un gap analysis. It's not a gap funding. Le financement devra être fait par chaque État. On peut toujours imaginer des solutions d'autres types, mais non, c'est clair. Le financement des armées, c'est une affaire nationale et rien n'est prévu d'autre. Et par rapport à l'European Peace Facility, yes, we have enough resources for this year. Et on peut toujours les remplir, ces ressources. Il suffit que les États décident de le faire. Ce n'est pas comme le budget européen. C'est une décision intergouvernementale, beaucoup plus flexible. Ne demande pas l'accord avec le Parlement. Il demande tout simplement que les États membres qui font partie des EPF se mettent d'accord pour augmenter la quantité qu'ils auront décidé au début de l'année. Mais on pense qu'on a assez de ressources avec ce qu'on a.
Yuri, and then the lady in white.
The lady in white.
At the end. She's at the end. Yuri, il faut lui répondre.
J'en vois 3.
Elle est tout au fond. Il faut lui répondre en anglais à Yuri.
En anglais? Okay.
So thank you very much, Yuri Shiko, Deutsche Welle. So I want to come back to English to ask you about Russian war against Ukraine. So you said now it is a turning point. So can you tell us what is the EU assessment? What is
turning point? Yes.
Yes. So what is your assessment? How long will Russia be able to continue its offensive? Because now we still see that Russia is trying to continue its offensive on Donbas. So what is your assessment? How long it will be able to continue to sustain this effort? And then you said that EU countries want to continue providing weapons to Ukraine. So, but given this huge gap that you talked about, will the EU countries have enough weapons to provide to Ukraine to sustain this effort, to help Ukraine to defend itself, and as you said, to start counter-offensive in other parts to liberate other parts of Ukraine that have been occupied by Russia?
Yes, certainly. The member states have enough resources to continue supporting Ukraine at the same pace. No problem. And I am not a military expert. I don't know. I have a military staff, and I got a lot of advice and information. I see what the satellites see. But frankly speaking, I wouldn't dare to make a hypothesis about how long Russia can resist. We are talking about Russia resist. The verb resist, we use it with respect to Russia. But if it is true that Russia has lost about 15% of their troops at the beginning of the war, this is a world record on the losses of an army invading a country.
Thank you.
And you have the list of the material that the Russians seem to have lost on tanks, artillery, drones, losses which has been verified. That's also an incredible amount of losses. I don't know if they can refill it, but the amount of losses of the Russian army is really impressive.
And last but not least.
Thank you, Katerina Tani from Monch. I have a general question on cooperation, defense cooperation. In the past, the increase in national budgets for defense haven't always translated into increased cooperation. So do you think that this time the overall geopolitical situation and the need to replenish the stocks will translate into an improved cooperation in defense for member states? And if yes, why? Thank you.
Because there are good reasons. Because until now we were in a theoretical situation, on était dans une situation without a specific danger. We were not facing a threat, a concrete threat. And you know, Europe is answering in front of a crisis. We need a crisis in order to react. That's a pity that it has to be on a military crisis, on a war that represents losses of human lives and destructions in Ukraine. But in any case, it has been a wake-up call. Now everybody understands that we need to be more capable of facing situations like ones that we have been taken out of our imagination. And now they become real. So there is a strong incentive to act, and to act the best way. And it's clear that common procurement, common research and development, pooling capacities, avoiding diversification of materials, different types of materials, all the doctrine that the European Defence Agency has been creating along the years And this agency was created for that, was created to push for a common defense capacity. And now is the moment for the agency to use the knowledge that it has been producing. And I am sure that the member states will understand that in order to spend better, they have to spend together. To spend together, to spend better. And since they want to spend more, they will do it in a better way if they do together. The number of expenditure which is being done in a, let's say, in a common approach has been decreasing. Against any rationality has been decreasing. So that is time to turn this trend up and to do otherwise.
Thank you very much. This is the end of this press conference, and thank you everyone for your patience. Thank you, High Representative, and thank you to the interpreters for your work today. Thanks. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, and good afternoon.